The Seattle Seahawks continue to sort things out at the bottom of their wide receiver depth chart. What's going on, everybody? Good morning. We are here on this Wednesday, this hump day, to talk about more Seattle Seahawks training camp news from yesterday's session. There is some pretty interesting stuff going on at the VMAC, even though the most interesting stuff took place off the field. It took place in the front office. It took place with the signing of Connor Williams. And believe me, most of the Seahawks news that came from yesterday concerned Connor Williams because that's a big deal. But there was a training camp that happened, and I already sounded off about Connor Williams. So we're going to be using this video to talk about training camp day 12 and some of the happenings, some of the interesting notes. You guys know how we do things around here. So if you want to know more about the training camp session, Greg Bell has a little write-up here in the News Tribune. Corbin Smith did his over on SportsIllustrated.com. So you can definitely check those out. Before we get into the training camp discussion, however, I want to go over a few things. First, I posted a poll in the community tab of the channel that everybody should be able to vote in, basically asking which preseason game should I do a watch-along live stream of. You guys know how the watch-along live streams go. I try to do like 2 or 3 a year, 1 preseason game, 2 regular season games, and I just want to get a feel for what people want. Now, obviously, if you haven't voted in that poll yet, you should go over to the community tab and vote in it. Currently have, as of the recording of this video, about 350 votes. However, there has been a pretty clear trend that has emerged in those 350 votes. It would be somewhat unlikely if it were to change because it is a pretty definitive lead here. People seem to want the Titans game, which is in, what would that be, 10 days? So it looks like it's going to be that one. So still vote. You never know what could happen, but looks like we're going to be doing a watch-along of the second preseason game, which I certainly have no issue with that. Second thing is, there's going to be a Hawks Nest stream tomorrow night. I think it starts at 7 Pacific. Maybe we'll bump it back to 8, but probably 7 Pacific. So tune in. Me and the Hawks Nest have not worked together for a couple months now. And now we're going to be collaborating again because there's stuff to actually discuss. We're going to have plenty to say about the offseason, and then we're going to have plenty to say about the first preseason game against the Chargers. So check that out. Tomorrow night should start at 7 Pacific. And the last thing I want to do is discuss a comment I got on one of my videos. So I got a comment on one of my training camp videos a couple days ago, and it basically said that they thought that it would be better if I started posting training camp videos as soon as training camp wrapped and we got the information, rather than uploading them the following morning, basically saying that, it's too slow because everybody's talking about the training camp session that happened that day, but by the time you get your video up about training camp, it's the next day, and the next training camp session is either about to start or is already started. So basically saying that it would be better if I just immediately got the video up, which I could do. That is something that I am in a position to potentially do. The issue is, generally speaking, by the time we get this information together, by the time we get the write-ups, by the time we get the tweets, by the time we get the information about what happened at camp, it's kind of late. And the reason why I wasn't posting the videos then is because I just didn't feel like it would be optimal to post the training camp videos that late in the day when people on the East Coast might already be asleep. People on the West Coast have probably already settled in and they're doing something else. It just made more sense to me to post it at 9 in the morning the next day. I can definitely see the point of that comment. I think it's a good one. And if we were getting a full slate of information to go off of by 2 p.m., I would definitely try to get the videos up by 3 p.m., but that's not what happens. A lot of these days, we're waiting until 7 to get all the information. And then you're looking at, okay, maybe I'll post a video at 8. And then it's 8 Pacific? How many people are going to watch that video? When something big happens, of course I make a video, like the Connor Williams signing, like an injury update that's significant. I'll do that. But generally speaking, how do you guys What do you guys think? If I started posting training camp videos, training camp recaps, the day of, late at night, would you watch them, or do you like them better the next morning? Just let me know what you guys think about that, because it is something that I've thought about as well, but it's just a little bit hard to figure out exactly how to do it. If it was in the afternoon, that'd be easy, but having to do it at night, I don't know. Okay, so let's take a look at some notes from training camp. There honestly isn't a lot. I think all the beat reporters got so into the Connor Williams stuff that there just wasn't nearly as much information to pass along. Also, it was a no contact practice, so there wasn't like anything there. It wasn't as meaningful as a contact practice. So Curtis Crabtree does have the one little bit of roster news that came in before Connor Williams. Linebacker Jamie Sheriff got signed because we do have a need at linebacker right now because of the Jerome Baker injury, and we waived Joshua Onu Giogu. Now, Giogu, he was more of an outside linebacker than an inside linebacker, but either way, he had very long odds of making the team, so certainly nothing wrong with that. And yeah, just doing what you need to do when you have a shortage at the linebacker spot that we do right now. Greg Bell here has this Gino, welcome back. The Air Force service members from the Lewis McChord Joint Base actually showed up at camp for a little bit, that's pretty cool. But the reason why I wanted to draw attention to this in particular was that Gino Smith, no relapse. His knee and hip issues seem like they're in the past now. He practiced 2 days ago, and now he practiced yesterday, so I guess everything's good and everything's cool. So Gino is fine. Tyler Lockett, however, not practicing for the second day in a row. He got a veteran day of rest 2 days ago, and then yesterday he didn't practice again. Now, he was catching passes from the jugs machine before and after practice, according to Greg Bell, and I've seen a couple other people mention this, that he's still catching passes. He looks fine. They just gave him another veteran rest day, I guess, which I have no objection to because he is one of our older players and he is a guy who is probably getting near the end here, if we're being honest, just because of, the mileage that he has on his body and all the production he's had lately. So I'm all about giving him days off, especially right now. He does have a new offense to learn, I guess, but I can't be that worried about Lockett. Like I can't be that worried about Lockett figuring this out. Again, by the time the season starts, he's probably going to be the third. I could even see a scenario where he's the fourth receiver in this offense because of Fant. If we end up using Fant a lot the way some people suspect, Lockett could be option 4. And he's just a guy that you lean on for maybe big catches, and maybe you lean on him in situations because you know how good he is at certain things like route running. But you don't want to put too much of a load on him because he's old and because I feel like there has been occasional examples of him being leaned on too much in recent years and that hurting his bottom line. So Lockett, missed practice a second day in a row, worth monitoring a little bit, but it doesn't seem like it's injury related at all. Taylor was still out. Jerome Baker still out. Draymond Jones still out. So we've got a couple things lingering there. I didn't see any updates about any of that other than the fact that they were out. But it is definitely a relatively clean injury situation given where we started training camp. Now, I know we all want the Abe Lucas update. I don't have it. We don't have it yet. So we're just going to keep waiting on that. But yeah, that's what I got going on there. So now let's talk about what actually happened on the field. So the day was marked most notably by Gino Smith and DK Metcalf having some really good connections. And one thing that Greg Bell mentioned a lot in his TNT article is how great the competition is between DK Metcalf and these cornerbacks. Obviously, Metcalf's having an opportunity to go up against a bunch of them. He caught a long ball on Woolen yesterday. He's going up against guys like Trey Brown, and Trey Brown is fighting. Like, he doesn't always win, but he's fighting in there. And you're really seeing probably the most talented player on the Seahawks really test and really help improve those cornerbacks that obviously we know how good they are, but we're also seeing some guys who are relatively new and relatively untested and unexperienced come in and benefit from their experience with playing against DK Metcalf, and they're have their hands full, but they're giving it back to him too. So definitely cool stuff there. Carlton Johnson was one of the studs of the day. He had 5 pass breakups, including one that led to an interception by D. Williams. Now, that's only so exciting because Carlton Johnson, long shot to make this roster. Maybe he gets on the practice squad. Same with D. Williams, if I had to guess. But it's good to see that no matter who we put out there at cornerback, it seems like they're doing stuff. So that's a highly competitive room, and I like what I'm hearing from it for the most part. Another thing that kind of was the emphasis of the day were, well, number one, and this is what I alluded to in my intro, Cody White continues to have a really good camp that a lot of people are shouting out positively. He had a one-arm touchdown catch from Sam Howell. By the way, Sam Howell supposedly had one of his better days. Sam Howell looked good. But Cody White had a one-arm touchdown catch, probably the best play of the day. And he is starting to separate himself from these other depth receivers. Because Eskridge, I'm just going to say it, not good. Eskridge, I think, dropped 2 touchdowns yesterday. Greg Bell talked about it a little bit in his article, and I saw it from a couple other guys as well. Eskridge, he wasn't the only one dropping passes, but his drops really stood out because he is fighting for his life, and it's sure starting to seem like it's not going to work because, you know, he's got to fight off Chenault, he's got to fight off Derek Young, he's got to fight off Hayden Hatton, he's got to fight off all these guys. Now he's fighting off Cody White, and he's not really doing a very good job, it sounds like. Like according to everything I've heard, Cody White has looked better than D. Eskridge so far. So it's looking like it might be the end here. If Eskridge can't make some significant plays in the next few weeks and probably do some stuff in preseason, it may be over. But yeah, shout out to Cody White. He's doing stuff, and he was not really on my list. He was not really a guy that I thought had a realistic chance of making the team, but he's doing the thing. Brady Henderson kind of sums up the day as well. There was a big play, a deep ball to Jake Bobo, as well as the couple to DK Metcalf, but he also calls out the drops and even some missed throws from the second team and third team. Again, I do think Howell was better, but PJ Walker is just never going to be a super accurate quarterback, so you're going to get what you get with him. That's not really why he's here, right? He's here because he is a headache for opposing defensive coordinators because of his mobility and agility. So Smith continues to be the quarterback that the optimists in the fan base hope that he will be. And yeah, Bobo continues to have a really studly training camp. I remember a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, there were a lot of Seahawks fans who were, well, maybe it wasn't fans, but there were some people in the media who were suggesting that Jake Bobo could be a surprise cut. That's clearly not going to happen based off training camp so far. Bob Condotta wraps things up a little bit as well, and the thing that he shouts out is that there was one of the best plays of the day for the offense, McIntosh. McIntosh had a long catch out of the backfield. So we are trying to monitor this running back battle between him and Helani, and McIntosh needs to kind of turn things in his favor because right now momentum favors Helani. And in fact, Corbin Smith actually asked Ryan Grubb about the running back stuff, and he talks about it a little bit here, and that Grubb actually mentioned Helani as a third down back before he mentioned McIntosh. Now, I still think that Charbonnet should be the third down back because he's a really good blocker, but he mentioned Helani before he mentioned McIntosh, and he said Helani has great physicality, contact balance, and pass protection, and Kenny McIntosh has gotten better, but he needs to get better with the pass protection. That is, I think, pretty clear language there, right? So, McIntosh, yeah, that's what you need to get better at if you want to get on the field right now. It's going to be hard to get on the field because it's getting crowded. And if Helani really does beat out McIntosh in terms of usage, that's a little bit rough because Helani just got here. McIntosh was technically on the team last year. And the final thing I want to loop to would be Dugar here talking about the center stuff because we obviously signed Connor Williams. And Grubbs wanted to be very clear that Oluwatimi and Nick Harris are doing great and they're currently splitting first-team reps. And he said competition has been at a high level between two of them. I think it's making them both a lot better. which sounds great. It's a little bit harder to buy in light of yesterday. I've said this before, I'll say it again. I think that if Oluwatimi or maybe Nick Harris looked really good at center, you wouldn't have signed Connor Williams, because that's going to affect your flexibility during the season. And all GMs and front offices want flexibility to do stuff during the season. So I think that this is a little bit of, I don't know, you could call it toxic positivity, which there has not been a lot of around the Seahawks this offseason, so I'm not unhappy about it necessarily. There's a little bit of gamesmanship in there, I'm sure, but this is about the most positive thing I've seen about our centers so far. And one other interesting angle would be what happens with Nick Harris now. Presumably, Connor Williams starts, Oluwatimi's the backup. You don't really have room for 3 centers on the roster, so does Nick Harris bump down to the practice squad? Would he make it to the practice squad? Would we let him go and save a little bit of money, and that's how we're going to afford Connor Williams? That's a little more interesting, right? Now, if we kick him to the practice squad, we save a good chunk of money anyway, but that might actually be the way we make ends meet here. It's at least on the table. So I want to see what happens there. But obviously, Nick Harris is not super accomplished in the NFL. Teams will not be lining up and spilling out the door trying to sign him. So that's really all I got. There wasn't nearly as much action yesterday. It was other than the Connor Williams thing, which kind of overruled everything else, it was a relatively peaceful day. And we're just a handful of days away from the start of the preseason. So thank you for watching. See you guys later. Go Hawks. And if anything else happens later today, I will sound the alarm. It'd be really nice to get some positive health updates on some of these players that are still lingering. Most of it's been cleared, but got a little bit more to do. And yeah, we'll see you guys later. Go Hawks.